Right, in this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the proofing tool in EdTech books and Equity Press and Open and BYU Open. So if you work in the platform at all, you know that you have the pencil icon here to go edit a chapter. This uses the Wysiwyg Editor, Tiny MCE. So this is a decent editor. It's pretty straightforward, and we've added a lot of custom tools here. Some of the limitations of the editor are that it doesn't always let you see what the content is going to look like in the actual page. It's also sometimes puts in like junk code that's hard to decipher. So if you were to go and look at the source, if you're familiar with HTML, you'll find a lot of weird things going on in here sometimes, and that's just an artifact of the TinyMCE editor. So I mean, this is a common editor. It's used by WordPress and a lot of others like Canvas, a lot of other platforms like that. But it leads to some just strange behaviors that maybe you don't anticipate. So for instance, this YouTube video isn't necessarily behaving the way that we want. We kind of assume that if we, drag the things around, the scrubbers around, that it'll fix it. But I mean, it just ends up doing some weird things. So the reason for that is that HTML is kind of simple in many ways, and the TinyMCE editor tries to allow you to do things that maybe you shouldn't even be trying to do in HTML. The editor also creates accessibility issues because as you start to do things in the editor, sometimes you might make changes to your content that make it no longer accessible to like people using a screen reader or people who are accessing your site or you're accessing your book through a cell phone or something like that. So to help with this, and also to make editing faster and quicker, we've created the proofing tool. So this is an ongoing project, and so this will continue to be improved over time. But if you come to the dropdown and go to proofing, this will show you a version of your book. So this is what it actually looks like, but you'll notice every element in the book has a dashed line around it. So this lets us see where all the elements are in the book, and it also allows us to edit them directly. So I can come in here, I can click on any element, and if I click element actions, I can see all the things that I can do with that element. So for instance, if I choose this heading right here, I can choose to move it up or down. I can move the order of these elements around. I can change the type of element that it is, and so forth. So in this case, let's just go ahead and get started with a few things, and I'll show you maybe some common errors that people run into. So these might be just things that they're not able to do with the TinyMCE editor, or maybe accessibility or design errors that you just need to be aware of. So first of all, the first heading that is used in any chapter should be an H2 heading, and that's because the chapter title up here is an H1, and then every subsequent heading, if it's nested, should go deeper than that. So this first heading is correct. It should be an H2. This next one should be an H3, and so forth. So if I can find other headings like this one, this is an H2. So as long as this is at the right level, then we're good. But it's not. So this one actually should be an H3 because our H2 is a 1.1 homeostasis, and so H3 should be 1.1.2. Should be because it's under homeostasis. And so we want to go through and make sure that all of our headings are at the right level. And the reason for that is that that's necessary for screen readers to work properly, but also EdTech books will create an outline of your chapter for readers, and this is what it bases that outline on. Another thing is you'll notice here that there's a small box around. So notice that this heading is boxed, but there's also another box around the text for this heading, homeostasis heading. What that means is that there's an element within an element. And visually that might look the way that you want, but one of the problems of this, it's just not as clean as it otherwise might be, because what's going on is you have the H2 element, and you have a span inside it, and the font size is changed. So all of this is, what this is trying to do is using the TinyMCE editor, a span was created inside this element, and the size was manually changed, the alignment was manually changed. And you can do that, but the problem with doing that is now every single time I want a heading, an H2 heading, I have to do that same, I have to apply those same formats to it. A better way of approaching this is to remove those custom formats. So to do that with the proofing tool, I'm going to select the span and merge up. So that just gets rid of the span altogether. I'm also going to get rid of this style text align center. Because when I do that, this is defaulting back to the default H2 styles. Now, the reason for doing that is so that whenever we create another H2, they'll all look the same. Now, once we've done that, though, we can apply CSS to either an entire chapter or to an entire book. So if I come into the chapter and go to Settings and go down to the Custom CSS box, and if you don't understand CSS, that's fine. You can reach out to an admin and we can help you come up with a list of codes that might be helpful for you. But if I come in here and create something for the H2 rule, and I'm going to do text align center, what this does now is every single time I create an H2, it's going to be centered. So see, notice that the H2 is centered. So we can do this at this chapter level or at the book level. So if you decide you want all of your H2s centered across the entire book, all of your heading 2s, we can just put in a single line of code at the book level, and it'll apply that to every single heading in every single chapter, rather than you having to go in and manually format every single heading. So let's jump back to the proofing tool. So again, how I did that was in the proofing tool, I just removed those custom formats that I had applied just to this single heading. And instead, I created a CSS rule that I applied to all the headings throughout the entire book. Let's scan down a bit more. The rest of this content is looking pretty clean. So we have just a paragraph. We have some bolded text within the paragraph, which is all fine. That's looking good. Here we have an empty paragraph tag. We don't need these. These are typically ignored in a viewer anyway, so it just adds more clutter. So I'm just going to delete that one. I'm going to keep scrolling. Here I have, and I apologize, my screen is a little small right now. Here, let me just make it a little bit bigger. There. So here I have a couple of empty boxes again. I'm just going to get rid of those. Delete that one, delete that one. Okay, now we come down to images. Now images are where a lot of things go wrong, just because they cause visual problems for people on like mobile devices and so forth. So we have some presets that make this really easy in EdTech books and Equity Press. So when you click on an image, you'll see some options over here. These 4 buttons show you basically the 4 use cases that people normally want in a book. So in this case, this image is portrait style, so it's taller than it is wide, but we probably also want it centered on the page. So rather than going in and trying to figure out all the CSS to center it, but also to resize it when the screen size changes, all you have to do is come in and click this one button, and it'll do all that for you. So the nice thing about this is it's centered, it looks good. If I change the screen size, if I scale the screen size down, the image will scale down with it, and so it's universally accessible on all devices. So that's good where that is. Notice though, this is inside some things. So like this image is inside a strong box, which is inside an M box, which, it doesn't break anything, but it's just not very clean. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the image. I'm going to push this button to move it up out of those elements. So now I took the image and I moved it out of those M element and the strong element. And now I just have this empty element down here that I can delete. So I'm going to delete that one. Okay, down here, it looks like we want like a caption. So like the thing with captions is that in HTML, there are specific tags that you should use for captions. And the reason for that is so that it's universally accessible. So you don't want to just go in and manually bold something. You want to use the HTML code that goes with the caption so that a screen reader or a search engine knows that that caption goes with that image. So the way that you do that in EdTech books is actually really simple. What I'm going to do, well, here, let's do this. So if I come here and I click Insert Template, I have all these templates to choose from. I'm going to choose a template, figure, and caption. So when you click that, it creates this figure for me, and then I have this caption box. So in this caption box, I'm going to retype body temperature control by homeostatic control system. Okay, so I did that. Now I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to move it down and then up into the box. So then I'll delete this one. So there we go. So now what this has done is if I click on this picture, you'll notice I'm on the image, but it's inside a figure element. And then it has a sibling that is a fig caption element. So what this tells the screen reader is that this is the caption and it goes with this picture. So that makes it accessible. Also for every picture, we want to be sure that we have alt text with it. So when I click on this picture, you'll notice an alt right here. It just has the name of the image. That's not accessible because the screen reader needs to know what's in the image. So I'm just going to put some short text to explain it. Body temperature control. So that way, just if a screen reader or a search engine sees that image, they know what's going on in it. Okay, we have this other text here, image modified for public domain. That needs to go in the caption as well. So in the caption, I'm just going to I think in this case, probably the best thing to do is just to put another caption. But this is a unique case because normally you only have one line for a caption, but we'll just take this text and put it in here. And then notice that it copied a couple of things. So I'm just going to merge. Oops, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to click on this text. Let me click out of it first. I'll click on it, merge up. So now we have two fig captions. I think that's okay. I don't know if that's what we want or not, but I'll just leave it there for now. I'm going to delete this paragraph and delete another one. All right, now we're down here. We have a list, and this is good. So notice here something strange is going on. So the reason is that there's a list here, and then I guess maybe the author wanted more space between items. So when they entered this paragraph in between, it broke the list. So you have another list here, but then there's this tag on the list that says start to. The reason that's there is that because the list had to start over, it would be listed as one unless you created this manual tag on there. So what needs to happen is just these paragraphs need to be deleted between the list items, and then the list items need to be put together. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm just going to move these list items out like so, and then I'm going to delete these older containers, these OL containers around them. And then I'm going to come up to this list. So I'm on the OL, that's the list object. And I'm going to click the button expand. So what that's going to do is going to grab the next list item below it and bring it inside. So that fixed it. So now this is a single list rather than being 4 separate lists. It should do what we want them to do. Okay, let's keep going. We have a couple of things going on here. Notice like here, there seems to be like a really small element here at the beginning. Maybe it looks like that might be a bookmark. So maybe we'll leave that for now. But bookmarks we can talk through a little bit at another, maybe in another video. All right, this is an empty paragraph we need to get rid of. Coming down to this image, notice that the width is kind of strange and it's left aligned. We don't want any of that, so we're going to get rid of these codes that were here, and instead we're going to just click this one button. It's going to center it for us and do what we need to do. To get the caption, I'm going to do something a little different this time. This time it's inside a P element. I'm just going to change this to a figure. So now the image is inside the figure. And now after the image, I'm just going to click Insert. And well, it's smart enough to figure out that I wanted a caption there. So there it added my caption. So here I'm going to put feedback, response loop. And then we'll do the same thing we did above, even though we're not sure that maybe we want to keep it that way. We'll do copy and paste that text. Now, you might be thinking, well, but I want this fig caption bolded. And that's fine. We can bold it. What we're doing here, instead of like relying on this manual bolding going on here, is we're telling the HTML that this caption goes with this image, so we are making our content accessible. But we're also saving ourselves a lot of headache, because if we want this bolded, the best way of doing it is to apply that in the CSS so that we don't have to go to every single caption in our book and bold it. So I'll show you how to do that. Here, I'm going to go and delete this just to get rid of it and click Save. So just like we did with the headings, I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to go to Settings for my chapter. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to say Chapter Container, Fig Caption. So what this does, it says every time you have a Fig Caption in your chapter, to do this to it. So we'll do it, say font, weight, bold. Save that. And so again, what that did is I should notice now that all of my captions are bolded. There's that one, and there's that one. Now, I might be able to hack the CSS a little bit, so we just make the first one of each figure bolded. Let me just see if I can do that really quickly. Kind of putting, I probably should have tested this before I tried to do it in a video, but here we are. There we go. So Fig Caption, what we want is, so we want figure, Fig Caption first. I think this might do it. So let's try this. I think what this is supposed to do is find every figure in the first caption, make it a certain way. No, that's not right. Let me try one other thing, and I might just delete this part of the video. Figure. I don't think that'll do what I want it to do, but maybe we can just look here. Nope. All right, well, that's something that if you really wanted just the first Fig Caption in every figure to be bolded, we could explore a way of doing that, and I'd be happy to help you figure that out. But for now, we'll just leave it there, because I don't even know if that's necessarily what authors may want. All right, but so moving ahead, so we've got that image working the way we want. Here we have some empty space we don't need. Empty space is just like everything else. We don't want to manually create empty space, but if we're finding that for all of our heading twos, for instance, we want more space before them, then we should apply that in the CSS. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that manually. Otherwise, we're going to be doing it manually for the rest of our lives. I'm going to remove this style text align center tag here, and then it shouldn't affect it at all because we already applied that in the CSS. Okay, this is an H3, that works. I'm going to delete this paragraph. So this image, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to remove these width and height variables, and I'm going to just click this first Align Image Center button, and that should do what I want it to do. I'm going to do, again, the thing with the figure. So I'm going to select the parent paragraph, and I'm going to change that to a figure. Then I'm going to click on the image, and then just click the Insert button, and it inserts a Fig Caption after it. So for this one, there is no caption associated with this one just yet, so I'll just put needs caption, and then below that we would put this. Okay, so I'm gonna just delete this H4 element, so that's looking kind of the way that I want. You can also do a lot of other editing things within the proofing tool. So in this case, since I know that I need the caption here, I can do a couple of things to remind myself of that. I can leave a comment, but in order to leave a comment, an element has to have an ID. So first I just need to click the Add ID and Save feature. Oh, actually, I may not have added that yet for this kind of an element. Oh, sorry, I have to do one thing quickly. You can tell I'm not prepared for this video. But here I'm going into the site settings, and I'm going to turn on commenting. It was turned off for this site. Okay, so now if I come down to this, I click when I have the element selected, I now have an option that says add a comment. So if I click that, I'm just gonna add needs a caption here. So this is just to remind me to come back and do this. Something else that I can do is on any element, I can just click the needs attention button, and what that'll do is it'll flag it as red, and then that way I can always find it easily. And then when I'm done, I just unclick the needs attention button. All right, for this heading, I'm gonna delete this empty space before. I'm gonna get rid of some paragraphs. Looks like there's an image here, but since there's no image, we'll just leave it for now and not mess with it. So you notice I'm removing a lot of these empty paragraph tags. We can do that for the entire page. So to do that is we're going to go to the parent element. It's this slash. So this applies to all the content in the page. And I have some macros here that you can run on across the entire page. So if I click remove empty Ps, it'll go through and it'll find all the empty paragraphs, and it removed all of those for us. So now I don't have to go and delete those manually. I have an unnecessary enter there. Okay, now we're getting down to a YouTube video. Now YouTube videos are embedded on the site, but they're also, we don't use the native embed tag in the site like YouTube uses. And the reason for that is that we convert these to PDFs, and the native embed tag that YouTube uses is not accessible for PDF. And so for that reason, it operates a little bit differently. But so this YouTube video was put in correctly. The one thing that we would want to do though is just make sure that it's again centered like this. We can also just click standard here because this is a YouTube video. Looks like maybe the author created a width and height for it. We want to get rid of that and just click standard. And this way it will, if you have a width or a height, your image will not change based upon the size of the screen. And so instead you want to rely on the native functionality of the site. And so now this image will resize based upon the width of the screen. So that's good. All right, coming down here to tables. Tables are a lot of fun. So you'll notice when I click on a table element, there's a lot of nested elements in tables because you have the overall table, then you have a body indicator, then you have a row, then a cell, and then sometimes paragraphs within cells. And so there are a lot of things that can go wrong in a table. But here, let me come down here. It looks like maybe the author spent some time on this one. But here, let me go to this one and show you what we can do very quickly. So I'm going to come up and choose just the table object. So it just selects the entire table. And I'm going to just run a few things. I'm going to tell it to remove all the span children, so it helps to get rid of all the really small text. I'm going to tell it to remove the paragraphs, remove styles, remove strong, and also remove emphasis, but that's not an issue in this table. So this looks kind of simple now, but that's fine because this is actually what we want. One of the things that we want to do for our table, the simplest thing that I can do to make my table look good is to add a simple class to it called tables. I'm just coming here, click table, and hit enter. And so now that it has the table class, it makes it look like this. But I can do some other cool things as well. So if I click on the T body tag, I have an option here that says make first row T head because we want this first row to be formatted differently. And the T head is a part of the table that is tagged as a header. And so this is really important for screen readers so that they know where the headers are. So if I click make first row T head, you'll notice my tag here changed and now this is bolded. And the reason that it's bolded, it's not because I went in and said bold this, but because the site knows that all headings need to be bolded already. And so I just told it make these table headings. And so now they are table headings. We also have a feature here to make content title case. If your text was lowercase, you could do that. It's not working because it's all uppercase. But generally, like APA wants it to be title case rather than all uppercase, but I'm going to leave it in this case. One other thing that you can do is if you go to the T head now, actually I'm going to go to table. And if I click add common class, And this is how I should have added table before, but I forgot. I have some other classes here that I can add. One that is useful is striped. So this will now take every other row and make it a different color. But I have some others that might be useful as well. One more that I'm going to add just because I like it is if you go to the T-head, add a common class, T-head dark, it makes it look like this. So I'm liking how this one is looking. It's also very clean. You'll notice there aren't a lot of unnecessary boxes around things, and that tells us that it's just a cleaner HTML. Here, I'm just going to merge this into the previous. You don't want to be changing font, again, manually. You don't want to add style tags to font. And again, the reason for that is just for readability and accessibility purposes. If that's necessary, I'd be happy to help you figure out a solution that is accessible to doing that. But here, I'm going to run some of the same things on this table up here. Again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to the table object. I'm going to remove these tags that we have there. This one already has the table class associated with it, but I'm going to remove the spans, remove paragraphs, and so that's looking good. I'm going to click on the T body and say make first row T head, so that's good. You'll notice on this TR here, the author added a background color. I'm just going to remove that and instead make the T head dark so that it matches this other one, and then go back to the table, and I'm going to add a table stripe to it. And there's that. So I'm going to save what I've done, and now go and look at it. So I think this is looking pretty clean. So we have our headings. Notice that because we have our headings in place, now when we click this nav button, it'll show us what's showing. So I'll have to go look at that. Maybe some settings have changed. Oh no, that's right. So it shows us links to the H2s. I believe we can also set it to link to the H3s as well. But if not, that's a feature that can't be added. We also see the images here. So I can find all my images very quickly that way. So this content's looking pretty good. Our tables look good. And our YouTube video, notice it looks pretty good. If I click on it, I get a pop-up that lets me watch it. One last thing to show you with the proofing tool is, oh, well, we don't have any issues. So if we had issues, they would show up here. I just realized one of the maybe issues that we do have that the issue checker isn't finding is that each of our images still need an alt tag that makes sense. So not just the name of the image, but an alt tag that actually describes the image. So that should be added. Other than that, this chapter is looking really good. So that was a quick intro to the proofing tool. Hope it was helpful. As always, if you have questions or concerns, feel free to let me know, and have a great day.